Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode review. This time, we will be going over episode 8 of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's, which is the parody of Mad Max, or Fist of the North Star, the duel between Yugioh and Rook. And generally speaking, what did I think about the episode? Thought it was an okay episode. I didn't think it was anything that was, tremendously entertaining or really awesome, but I didn't think it was bad either. I thought it was just another kind of world-building, world-expanding episode that seemed like it could have been a one-off character and a one-off duel. I am going to explain something that Sevens has done actually really well so far in this show, which is the continuity between episodes. Right, the first 4 episodes was about the initial crew. We got Gakuto, Roman, and Rook all dueling Yuga. It was our introductory to the crew. Episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8 have all been seemingly one-off episodes with no correlation to each other. But I actually think that the way that the episodes have been written gives them all correlation to one another in a really interesting way. In episode 5, we meet Bakuro and the newspaper crew, and that's what allows Rook to be in the newspaper in episode 6, where he is taking fan questions, and one of those fan questions is from Yugioh, and his response to Yoshio's fan question is a little dismissive and short. And that's what leads to Yugioh wanting to duel Rook in a rush duel. And then in episode 7, we of course have Mimi, which is Yoshio's mother. And Mimi Itachi mentions that she has a son that is in love with a Neapolitan spaghetti. And so all of these episodes in some minor way correlate with one another. And when I think of all the fillery one-off episodes that we had right after the Dark Signers arc in 5Ds or very early on in GX, you would have characters show up and that would be it. There would probably never be a reference to them in the show again, like the clock dude that Crow dueled. Like, those are one-off episodes, whereas these characters, while they might end up being one-off characters, at least there is all some sort of correlation and foreshadowing and continuity between episodes, with the newspaper element, with Yoshio's mother mentioning Yugioh in the past episode before episode 8. I mean, it all seems to fit really well, and it seems like the show has a very good idea of what direction they want to go in and how they want to set up these conflicts, which is a really good sign. Of course, this is another duel where the stakes on the line are really not too intense. It's a very hot day. The group just wants a soda from a vending machine, and Yugioh, this 4th grader, I believe he's a 4th grader, right, is standing in the way wearing this Mad Max costume that he parodied off of a character that I believe is called Good Max. I'm pretty sure he's watching a TV show or a comic, and the character is called Good Max, so obviously a Mad Max reference. Yoshio's monsters in this episode, by the way, are amazing. I absolutely loved his deck. He had the gorilla riding the motorcycle, he had the wolf riding the motorcycle, the dog with sunglasses riding a tank. It was one of the coolest decks I have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 so far, and if the cards ever get printed in the TCG, which of course rush duels would have to be a thing, so that could be still months and months, if not years away, that is a deck that I might genuinely be getting and genuinely be interested in playing for rush duels. Probably my favorite deck so far. I just absolutely loved it. All the animals riding this equipment, and it was just a really cool theme, and it felt very wastelandish. And we also get a field spell. We get, I think it's our first field spell of this show. I'm pretty sure, at least it's the first one in a very long time that was fully animated, which that doesn't happen all the time. Like, I remember when Aoi used her Trickstar field spell early on in Vrains. I'm pretty sure that field spell was not fully animated and shown. Like, I like when the field spells are used and you actually feel like you are in that world, which that's what this duel showed off really well. So I enjoyed the field spell usage, which Yugioh obviously picked perfectly because it boosts up all of his monsters while it weakens dragon types, which of course those are the types of monsters that Rook uses. So him using that field spell was no coincidence, and it was a very smart decision on his part. The duel goes on for a while, and it actually looks like Yugioh has a major advantage when Rook pulls out maybe the coolest summoning. Honestly, the sequence reminded me a lot of when Playmaker would go up and look at the link markers. I mean, it looked almost identical to that when Rook was floating above that burning planet or that burning sun, and he looked exactly like how Playmaker looked, at least to me, when he was looking down at the link marker. Rook, of course, doesn't link summon. He just tribute summons, and he summons Dragonic Slayer, which, while Yoshio's monsters were probably my favorite archetype so far in this show, Dragonic Slayer might have been my favorite monster animation and my favorite summoning sequence that we have seen so far. So while the episode from a story perspective I thought was okay and nothing amazing, the duel itself and the monsters used in this duel was incredible. I thought the dueling, as it has been in most of these episodes, felt very alive and felt very well done. And Dragonic Slayer, this sick black and yellow dragon with a huge axe, gets summoned by Rook, ends up destroying the gorilla. I think it was Beastmax Gorilla, King of the... I can't remember what that monster was, the gorilla, Yoshio's ace. But he ends up destroying the gorilla, and Rook ends up winning the duel. And the end of the episode, I gotta be honest, was pretty wholesome. Mimi was stalking them. The crew starts where the ancient relic was, where they dueled the hologram man, and all the relics are gone. There's no trace of it. Kaizo can't find anything. So that's when they go outside and they say, wow, it's really hot. Mimi was stalking them down there because she still wants to know how to uninstall rush duels, mainly for her own greed to climb up the corporate ladder. Maybe not greed, but her own desires, right? To climb up the corporate ladder at Goha. And that, of course, plays into the whole theme of people underestimating her, and so she has that extra motivation. So it's not a shock to me that she's going the extra distance to try and really figure out how to get rid of rush duels just so she can better her own career and kind of shut up the haters. She goes out at some point to see the dueling commotion, and she realizes that that's her son. And her son, of course, is very upset because she doesn't make Neapolitan spaghetti for him anymore, because he enjoys rush dueling and he wants to rush duel. And of course, we know Mimi's stance on rush dueling before episode 7 was very, no, it's demonic, it's evil. These kids want to instill chaos and corruption into our beautiful Goha utopia society. And so she would lash out at her son anytime her son said anything positive about rush dueling. And she saw that, and she saw how much fun Yoshio had, and she probably remembers how much fun she had a couple of days ago when she was rush dueling. So she walks home, probably a little defeated because her viewpoints have just completely 180'd at this point. Yoshio is told by Rook and Yuga that, you know, he's got to figure it out on his own. He can't rely on Yuga's, or basically Rook says this, he can't rely on Yuga's help or anyone's help in this situation. You know, it's your mother. You have to do this on your own. You have to stand up for yourself and tell her how you really feel again, and maybe that'll get through to her. Of course, the crew has no idea that Mimi, the girl from the last episode, the elementary school girl, is Yoshio's mother. I was kind of hoping that that was going to get revealed at one point, but it didn't. And Yoshio walks home, and he goes into the apartment, and he says to his mom that he wants to rush duel. And Mimi, instead of scolding him or getting mad at him, just says, well, you have to keep your grades up as well if you want to rush duel. Typical mother thing to say, right, to an elementary school kid. And she is making him Neapolitan spaghetti. And Yoshio gets very excited, and that's how the episode ends. A very wholesome end to the episode. And I don't really know if... I do believe that Mimi and Yoshio are going to be reoccurring characters, because I think for shock value and probably for comedic value, they will reveal to Yuga and friends that Mimi is Yoshio's mother. And you can imagine the reaction that the crew is going to have when that revelation comes out. So, if only for comedic purposes, I think Mimi and Yoshio will be appearing in the story again at some point. But for now, the Itachi's introduction, Mimi and her son Yoshio are probably done, and I don't think we'll be seeing them for probably a little bit. But again, expanding the world, expanding these characters, they don't feel like true one-off episodes to me, which is a good thing. I could see Bakuro coming back. I could see the Ramen Kid coming back, especially if you're going to do a tournament. It's always good to expand the world. And because Rush Duels takes so quick, you can introduce all these characters so quickly without it feeling rushed, pun on that word, or without it feeling not fleshed out. Like, even though Mimi only got one episode of dueling and Yoshio only got one episode of dueling, I feel like I know a lot about their characters and their personalities, where it doesn't feel like they barely showed up, they dueled, and we didn't really get much of a backstory. So I like that a lot, and that, of course, is an advantage that you get with Rush Duels. Next week's episode is going to be wild. There are dinosaurs roaming around Goha. Clearly a parody on Jurassic Park or the Jurassic series. Even the episode, I think, is titled like Crazy Jurassic or something along those lines. So that'll be interesting. Rohit Kirishima, his debut is on the horizon. So for people who are hoping that this show is going to get more serious, I don't want to say that Roa might be the last hope for you, but Roa might be the last hope for you, and I do have high hopes for Roa, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Always seems to nail the rival character, so that should be really interesting to keep an eye on. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. Please comment your thoughts on episode 8 down below. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Jorge Carrillo, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Smith620, Blue Maiden 28, Panther J, Vincent Van Der Veen, Nero, Jarrett Buller, and Aura Dragon, and to my Diamond tier patrons Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, Pegasus Seiya, and Brandon Gomez, and to my Egyptian God tier patron Stella Sky. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon and who is a YouTube channel member. I cannot tell you how much you all help me out, and a big thank you to everyone who just supports me, because without you guys, I would not be able to do this. I will talk to you down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.